In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can navigate the back end of the Cloudways hosting provider, and it's going to be very similar to the one I did for SiteGround a while back. So in this video, I'm going to show you how you can set up your server, how you can install WordPress on the websites that you have on your server. I'll show you how you can migrate an existing WordPress website that you have on another platform onto Cloudways. I'm also going to show you how you can point the domain name that you bought from another platform onto the Cloudways server, because with Cloudways you cannot buy a domain name. They're not domain name providers, so you will have to buy your domain name from another provider and then point that domain name onto Cloudways. Don't worry, it's not complicated. I'll show you how to do that. I'm going to walk you through all the major settings for your server. So we'll talk about things like server maintenance, how you can set up security, backups, and so much more, monitoring and so on. We'll also talk about the settings for your website. So we'll talk about how you can increase the maximum file upload size, your memory size as well, how you can install SSL certificates. We'll talk about security, caching, and so much more. I guarantee you that by the end of this tutorial, you will have learned enough to conveniently navigate your way around the Cloudways back end. Now, very quickly, a brief history about my relationship with Cloudways. I joined Cloudways in April 2020, and the reason why I joined them was because at the time, I had just launched my two platforms, webmonkeyacademy.com and LabCyber. Both have plenty of video content, and I needed to upgrade my hosting from shared hosting to cloud hosting. I was with SiteGround at the time, and even though they are an amazing company with amazing features, their cloud hosting was a bit too expensive for me, so I needed a cheaper alternative. So I took a gamble with Cloudways, and I can tell you that after nearly 1 year of hosting with them, they are truly amazing. I've never had any major issues with them at all. And also the support is pretty good. It's excellent. So I feel very confident about promoting them to my audience. And speaking of promotions, I've actually partnered with Cloudways, and I can offer you 20% off for the first 3 months. It's one of the best deals you can find. All you need to do is to use my affiliate link in the description box below, and then use the coupon code CloudMonk20. Upon checkout, you'll get 20% off for your first 3 months. Let me also mention that in the description box below, you will find the timeline of everything we'll talk about. So if you need to access a topic really quickly, please do use the timeline in the description box below. One final thing to mention also is that initially when I joined Cloudways, I also tried to migrate the mailing service, the email service from SiteGround over to Cloudways, but unfortunately, it didn't work out. We kept on running into issues, and I just had to end up sticking with SiteGround for my mailing service. I'm not complaining. SiteGround is an excellent mail host. However, the reason why I am mentioning this is because should in case you try to do the same and you run into the same issues that I had, at the end of this video, I'm going to walk you through what I did. Basically, right now, I'm still hosting my emails with SiteGround, but the actual websites and the content is on Cloudways. I'm going to show you exactly what I did, so you can check out the end of this tutorial on what I did. So without wasting any more time, let's get started. Okay, so let's get started, and let me just walk you through the basics first of all. This is going to be the back end that you will be able to access once you have logged in to your Cloudways account. And right here, you'll have servers, applications, which are basically the websites that you're hosting on your server. Now, right here, you have the team link where you can add people that can also have access to your server and the applications. So from here, all you will need to do is to click on add the new team member. And then right here, you'll add the email address, their name, and then you can also choose a job title for them. And then right here, you can choose the kinds of permissions that they should have access to, whether it's billing, support, or console. Now, console is very important because you can stress whether you want to give limited access or full access. Now, with limited access, you will have to add the server that they'll be able to work with right here. And then right here, since I only have one server, which is called personal server, I'm going to check the box right here, and then I can choose not to provide full access. And then from here, I can then begin to choose the kinds of services that they should be able to work with. So maybe if I want to give them the ability to delete the server, I will check the box right here. Clone server, yes, I can check the box right here. Monitoring, security, and so on. And then the applications, this will be the websites that I can give them access to as well. So this is how you can control the amount of access that you want to provide for your team member. Now, projects, this is a particular feature I have not used before, but you can always come in here, click on add project if you want to, and then you can just choose the you can add a name for your project and then choose the website that you want to include under that project if you wanted to. Personally, I've never used it before, and I don't think you will either. Right here, you do have access to some additional features like the Cloudways bot control, add-ons, API. They have their affiliate program. You can also suggest a feature if you want. However, a very, very important feature is right here, the help link. It's over here on the right. You click in there, and then from here, you can access their knowledge base. You can create a ticket. You can also join the community as well, or you can simply click on live chat right here, and then you simply choose the kind of issue you're having, fill out the other details, and then you will begin to talk with an agent live. And that's pretty much it. Right here, of course, you have the what's new, and then in here they will have information about the latest changes that they've made to Cloudways, how they're improving Cloudways, and so on and so forth. But now let me show you how you can manage your server. Okay, so let's start by talking about the server management, and this typically would be the very first page you would see once you log into the backend of your Cloudways account. Right here you can see I have named my own server personal server. I do have 4 gigs of RAM, that's the IP address. The data center is in London, and right here you can see I do have 5 applications or websites on this server, and I do have 1 project I have associated with my server. And well, regarding members, it's just me. I'm the only one who has access to this server. That's why this right here is 0. Now you do have the 3 buttons in here where you can restart the server if you wanted to. You could add a new application, you could transfer the server, or you could choose to clone the server. But I'm going to go ahead now and click on the link to access the server management tools. And first things first is you'll have access to your master credentials, which you can edit. You can edit the username and the password if you wanted to. If you have SSH public keys from third-party applications and you want to use them, you can click on the green button right here to upload them. You'll have access to this. And of course, you can also launch your SSH terminal directly from this button right here. Now, monitoring is pretty useful because it lets you know how much resources are being consumed by your websites, and it will tell you whether or not you need to upgrade to maybe more memory, more disk, and so on. So right now you can see my server health is pretty strong. I'm only using about 1.84 gig out of the 4 gig of memory I have. CPU usage is just down to 1%, which is excellent. Disk usage, okay, I'm using close to 13 gig, but I still have close to about 67 gig left because I'm using close to 80 gig on my server. So I have plenty of space available. So it's just a good way to let you know how well your server is performing. And of course, on the details, you have access to more information like the idle CPU, the amount of incoming network traffic, outgoing network traffic, and so on. Out of all these settings right here, the one that you should pay the most attention to would be the idle CPU. Typically, the more idle your CPU is, the better. That means that your server is not that busy, and it should be at all times above 20%. It's right here. It says if it's consistently below 10 to 20%, consider increasing your server size. So if you notice that the idle CPU is not that much, it's down, that means that your server is very, very busy. And when your server becomes busy, the less likely it will be able to respond to new requests on time. So this is very, very useful to let you know how well your server is doing. New Relic, I have personally never used this application before, so I can't really give you that much information. Now, on the managed services, very, very useful. This would be where you can do things like restart your database. Apache, in this case right now, is the database server. So if I'm having any issues with my database, or I'm troubleshooting and I need to restart my database, this is where I can do that. So you have the restart button right here. Memcached is your caching service as well. You can restart if you want to. You also want to make sure that it's running as well, because caching is great. MySQL database related as well. New Relic, you can see we just talked about New Relic. I don't know what it is, but it's not enabled. Okay. Nginx is also used for serving static content on your website. You want to keep it running as well. PHP FPM as well is also used for boosting speed on your website. Make sure it's running. Now, Vanish is also part of the caching services, but I stopped mine because I was having issues with it. So if you launch your website with Cloudways and you notice something isn't working the way it should, it might be because of one of these services. Usually it might be the Vanish service. So of course, if you have any issues, contact their support first of all, and then they will let you know what needs to be done. In my case, Vanish needed to be stopped. It doesn't really affect the speed that much because the Memcache service does a great job. I'm running caching plugins on my website, and I'm also running other features, other settings for optimizing web speed. So the fact that I don't have Vanish installed or running isn't really that big of a deal. Now, settings and packages, very, very, very useful as well. You may have noticed as a WordPress user that sometimes maybe you tried installing a plugin or you tried doing something and then you get the message saying you've exceeded the maximum upload size, or you've run out of memory. This is where you can configure such things. So upload size, you can change the amount of upload size for your files. So maybe you're uploading very, very large files like videos that are close to like 1 gig and so on. You can come in here and change the upload size to accommodate them. Memory limit as well. 128 is pretty standard. Unless, of course, you're running some very heavy applications on your website, you may need to increase this, but 128 is usually just fine. Under advanced, you do have access to more information under PHP, MySQL, Apache. And honestly, I don't think you will ever need to access this particular tab, but it's just good to know that you do have these additional settings available. Under packages, you'll simply find the versions of PHP, MySQL installed on your site. There are other services like the Elasticsearch, Redis, and Supervisor, which again, I have never used before. Under optimization, very, very, very useful. In here, you can do things like schedule a disk cleanup, and you can also enable it to be automatic. So right here, by default, I do have mine set to on, and I've also checked all the boxes in here on the left. Now you could choose to run a manual cleanup by clicking on the button right here, but it's not really necessary. As long as you have this turned on for the automatic disk cleanup, what this will do is that once the disk usage has reached 80%, then Cloudways would run the scheduled automatic disk cleanup on your server. So you really don't need to do anything in here. Just make sure this is set to turn on for the automatic disk cleanup, and then make sure all these boxes in here are checked. And last but not least, we do have maintenance. And what you want to do right here is you want to choose the day and the time that your website receives the least amount of traffic. Honestly, I need to change this from Thursday to Sunday. Sundays are usually the days when I don't get that much traffic on my website. And then the time right here, you also want to pick a time when maybe you are sleeping or when the majority of your audience would be in bed. It all depends on the time zone, but make sure you pick the optimal time for scheduled server maintenance in here. All right, security. There isn't really much to cover in here on the security. You don't need to change anything in here. You could, however, choose to block all IP addresses and then allow only those on your whitelist IP setting in here. But normally you don't want to do that. You can just allow all IP addresses except for those blocked by Cloudways themselves. Same refers to MySQL as well. You don't really need to change anything in here. When it comes to security, we will talk more about them when we talk about the applications. Okay, when you have websites, that's where you really want to focus more on security. Okay, let's move on to vertical scaling. And again, in here, this is where you can just simply upgrade your server and pay more and get more resources, and then backups as well. very, very, very important, as you can imagine. Let's wait for this to load. And all right, so what you want to do right here is two important things. You have your backup frequency and then the backup retention. I would highly recommend, at least for the backup retention, go with 4 weeks. It's the maximum, and just this gives you enough time, just in case something happens on your website, you at least have backups going back to 1 month for you to rely on. Now, the backup frequency, this will depend largely on how frequently you update your website. If it's a blog and you're constantly updating content right there, you may want to go with 1 day, maybe even 12 hours or 6 hours. It all depends on how frequently you make changes on your site. However, keep in mind that the more backups you create, the more space they will occupy in your disk. So you want to choose something that makes sense here. Don't go overboard with the amount of backups you make. In my own situation, since I don't update content regularly on my site, 3 days is more than enough. One backup every 3 days is perfect for me, and then backup retention for weeks. So just make sure that you choose the optimal frequency and retention for yourself. And of course, you can always take an on-demand backup immediately right here by clicking on the button to take a backup. Now, when it comes to restoring backups that you've made, I will show you how to do that once we talk about applications. And then last but not least, you do have the SMTP, where you can configure your mail server with Cloudways. They do offer the elastic email, but in all honesty, I had issues working with it. And besides, I use my mail service from SiteGround. SiteGround are my mail service provider. So I just came in here, chose my own SMTP. I have my host from SiteGround as well as the port number. If you need help setting this up, Cloudways will be more than happy to assist you in setting it up. So that's basically it for the server management. Now let's talk about how you can add a website on your server. And you want to go to applications. You'll have the button right here that says add application. Click in there. And let's go ahead now and choose our server. I'm going to add the application. And okay, so right here, you do have the option of choosing the kind of application you want to install. In my case, it's going to be WordPress. You do have our WooCommerce in here as well, which will of course automatically also install WordPress for you. But I'm going to go with WordPress version 5.6. Name my app. I'm just going to call this one the test. Let me just call this one movie test app. Okay. And project, I'm just going to keep this one set to your project. I'm going to go ahead now and add the application. So what's going on right now is that Cloudways is going to create a domain for us, a URL that will have Cloudways in it. You will see what I'm talking about, but it's also installing WordPress on our new website. It's going to take about 2 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video and resume once the application has been installed. All right, so as you can see right now, I've gotten the message that says movie test app has been installed. So if I go back to my applications, down here you can see I do have the movie test app. I can click on it, and let me show you the URL I was talking about. So you see it's right here, WordPress-401413. Let me just go ahead now and open it up. And this is our new WordPress website with this very, very interesting domain. Let's wait for it to load. It's of course a very fresh installation, so it's going to take a few more seconds for it to properly load. And okay, so as you can see right now, the website has loaded. And if you wanted to access the back end, of course, you'll go to wp-admin. And for the username and password that you will use to access the back end, you will find it right here under the application management. You will have access details, and then right here you will have the username and then the password. Let me go ahead now and reveal the password. I'm just go ahead now and copy the password. So we're going to go back and oops, it says site cannot be reached. That is interesting. What's going on in here? Okay, well, there you go. I'm not sure what happened back there. I'm going to go ahead now, paste the password, and of course my username as well. I can now log in and access the backend for the website. Now, the question you will have right now is, okay, what if you already have a domain name from another website? Maybe you bought your domain name from Namecheap or GoDaddy or SiteGround. How would you point that domain name over to the new application or website that you've installed on your Cloudways account? I'm going to show you how you can do that in just a second. But before that, I want to show you how you can transfer a website that you already have on another web host like SiteGround over to Cloudways. All right, so this is the website I have currently hosted on SiteGround, and I want to migrate the site over to Cloudways. So what you want to do is you want to go ahead to install and activate this plugin called Cloudways WordPress Migrator on your website. I've already done that, so I'm going to go ahead now, click on the link down here, and I'm just going to go ahead now and add my email for Cloudways. Click on migrate, and I will have to fill in some information. So right here, the very first one here will be the destination site URL. It's going to be the URL for your site on Cloudways. So I'm going to grab that one, paste it right there. And now the IP address will be for my server on Cloudways. The database name, you could leave this blank, but just to avoid any errors, what you want to do is, actually before we do that, let me just grab the username and password for the SMTP, which you will find on your server right here. So you have your username. I'm going to go ahead now and copy this one. Let's paste that for the username, and then the password as well. I'll just do that one also. Let's paste the password. Now for the database name, you're going to go over to your application itself. So mine is down here, Movie Test App. And then under your access details, down here where you have my SQL access, this is the database name right here. So I'm going to go ahead now to copy that name. Let's go back in here and then paste that. And there we go. So the only other thing you might need to fill in here would be the root directories. If you have other root directories on your site, you click on yes right here. If it's password protected, you click on yes and then you provide the password. Other than that, you're good to go. Go ahead now, hit migrate, and it should work. So what's happening right now is that Cloudways is making sure that all the information we provided is actually accurate. So let's wait for a few more seconds for this to finish validating. And awesome. So now it says your site is being migrated to Cloudways. Now, if you have any other issues, let me just say this one right now. Sometimes you may get an error message saying you don't have access to a particular file or folder. Let me show you what you would do in such a scenario while this migrates. In such a scenario where you're having issues, go back to your application, and then down here under application management, you will see application settings. You click in there, and then right here where you have the reset file folder permissions, just simply click on the button right here to reset the permissions. That's in case you have an error message while trying to migrate that says something like you're not able to access a particular file or folder or anything like that. This is what you would do. If you still have issues, just simply contact Cloudways support and they will help you. This is going to take a while, maybe like 5-6 minutes. So I'm going to pause the video right now and resume once the migration has been completed. Alrighty, so now you can see that the migration has completed. However, we've only just started. There are still several things that we'll have to do. What you want to do now is to go back to your Cloudways account, and then right here where you have your domain management under your application management, you want to go ahead and click in there, and then right here enter your primary domain. In my case, it's going to be simply the movie characters.com. So just simply enter your domain name right here. You click on save changes, and this should update. Next, we'll have to create something known as an A record. Wherever you're currently hosting your domain name, whether it's on Namecheap, GoDaddy, Bluehost, SiteGround, you'll have to go there and create something known as an A record that will point your application over to Cloudways. Now, for Cloudways, they do have an actual link right here to a page where they show you how to create an A record for Namecheap. So you can search for it. They do have other ones for GoDaddy as well. They don't have for SiteGround. So let me show you how you can create an A record with SiteGround. And the thing is, it's going to be very, very similar regardless of whether you're hosting your domain name on Bluehost or GoDaddy. It doesn't really matter. Now, I'm over here on SiteGround, and I'm currently accessing the account for themoviecharacters.com. So I want to create an A record here that will point this domain over to Cloudways. What you want to do is you want to go to domain setting right here, then look for something called the DNS zone editor. This will be very, very similar on other platforms as well. So I'm going to click in there. And what you want to do is you want to create something known as the A record. Like I said earlier, A record. So right here, I do have 3 different fields. I have the name. You can leave this one empty. That's perfectly fine. Time to live, you can choose 1 hour. That's okay. And now for the IP version 4 address, you're simply going to paste or copy the IP address, copy and paste the IP address of your server on Cloudways. So right now you can see I have it right here. So I'm going to go ahead now and simply click on create. Okay. Now, right here, because I used to host the movie characters on SiteGround itself, you can see right now there's another A record here pointing to the IP address of my SiteGround server. So we're going to have to go ahead and delete this one. So I'm going to go ahead now and just simply hit delete, and there you go. Okay, so now the only A record in here points for the movie characters points to 167.711.33118, which is the IP address of my server on Cloudways. So going back to the domain management right here, it has been saved, as you can see. So what's going to happen right now is that I will have to wait possibly for about a whole day before this migration has actually completed. This takes quite a while. Okay, when you're switching DNS servers, it may take up to a full day. So what I'm going to do is, obviously, I'm going to stop the video right now and resume tomorrow once the migration has completed. Actually, before I stop the video, let me show you a quick tool that you can use to check whether or not your website has fully propagated. You can go to what's mydns.net, and then right here inside this box, you add your domain name, choose the A record right here, and then simply click on search. I just did that, and now you can see that most of the propagation has already completed around different servers around the world. But you can see right now the one for San Jose, California, United States has still not propagated. Canada has not propagated. Spain has not propagated yet. And then Pakistan, Thailand as well have all not fully propagated yet. So what this means that anybody who tries to access my website from any one of these locations will not be able to do so at the moment. So this is one way how you can check whether or not your website has fully propagated. So like I said, it's going to take quite some time, several hours at the least, before it fully propagates. So I'll resume the video once the propagation has completed. All right, so I'm back, and as you can see right now, the propagation has completed. We have green check marks across all the web servers, and it took about 35 minutes for this to complete. So now that the migration has fully completed, we can then do other things like install an SSL certificate, which is very, very important. Now, here's the thing. In order to install an SSL certificate, there are 2 things that you need to achieve. First of all, make sure the propagation has completed successfully. And then where you have the domain management, make sure that you have your primary domain set in here. Very, very, very important. Now, if you have subdomains like maybe test.themoviecharacters.com or blog.themoviecharacters.com, you simply come in here, you click on add domain, and then you can add additional subdomains in here if you wanted to. But for SSL, very, very straightforward. You see SSL certificate right here. You want to click in there and then choose the Let's Encrypt, okay? And then right here, you simply add your email address for your account. So let me just go ahead and add that real quick. And then my domain, which is themoviecharacters.com. Now, Wildcard, if you don't know what this is, if you have subdomains under the movie characters, or rather under your main domain, and you want to install SSL for them as well, that's when you would use the Wildcard. But I don't have any subdomain, so I'm going to leave this box unchecked. I'm going to go ahead now and simply install the certificate. Now, this could take anywhere between 3 to 4 minutes, so I'm going to pause the video and resume once the certificate has been installed. Okay, welcome back. So as you can see right now, it has installed, but then we also have the option to enable HTTPS direction. Now, what this does is that it will force all our pages to open up with HTTPS, which is great. That will provide encryption, will add some really good security for our website. So I'm going to go ahead now and simply enable HTTPS redirection as well. This again could take anywhere between 2 to 3 minutes. So I'm going to pause the video one more time and then resume once this has completed. All right, so as you can see right now, HTTPS redirection is now enabled. And if you end up having any issues as a result of this, you can always go back to your application settings down here. You want to go in there, and then right here, you will see the HTTPS redirection. You can simply disable it from here if you run into any issues. But now let's begin to take a look at all the other features available under the application management. Okay, so now let me walk you through the settings under your application management. The first one here is going to be the access details. And right here, you can change the username and password for your WordPress website. You can also change the database name, the username and password right here as well. And then you can also launch the database manager directly right here. This will open up in a whole new page, and now you will have access to the entire database for your website. All right, we have monitoring. And this is where you can access things like the amount of traffic your site is generating, the disk usage as well, things like that. Let me close this one. Now, bot protection is very, very, very important, and I would highly recommend that you switch this to on, make it active. This will help to block bots from trying to access your site. It's a really, really great security feature provided by Cloudways. And of course, domain management, we've talked about that one as well. This is where you can set up cron jobs if you need to. You'll have access in here. SSL certificate, we've talked about that one already. But right here, you can see when your current certificate will expire. And I would also recommend that you go ahead and enable the auto renewal so that once the current certificate expires, a new one will be generated for you. Now, backup and restore. Very, 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 very useful, very, very important. And to demonstrate how you would actually use this feature, let me choose a different application or a different website where I've actually taken backups. So let me go to my own personal website, Alexander Roni. Okay, so from here right now, under restore, this is where you can choose any backup that you want. So I can go with the one yesterday, 2 days ago, and so on. I can simply choose one of them and then just simply click on restore application now if I wanted to. That's how you can restore your backups. And of course, you can always take a manual backup directly in here as well. Let me just switch back to the test website. And okay, now you also have deployment via Git. Honestly, I have never used this particular feature before, so I'm not sure what it is. But on the application settings, well, this is very, very important, especially right here on the right hand side. Now you do have things like varnish, which is of course used for caching. If you're having any issues with caching in general, you typically would want to disable this particular feature. SSH access, I'll recommend you disable it unless, of course, you do use SSH. For the rest, keep them as they are. HTTPS redirection, keep that one enabled. And then right here, the XML RPC, make sure this is disabled as well. This will prevent brute force attacks on your website. And then you also want to disable the direct PHP files access. This would limit the ability for hackers and malware to attack your site. So make sure these two are disabled. And of course, if you're having any issues, like I said earlier, with like accessing files or folders on your site, you simply come right here where you have the reset files, folders, permissions, and simply click on the reset button. I'm going to ignore the PHP FPM settings. We don't need to do anything in there. Varnish settings as well. I have never used this one before, but if you need to add rules for your Varnish caching, this is where you can do so. You do have access to the migration tools where you have the WordPress migration plugin that you can download. And last but not least, you do have the Cloudways CDN, the Content Delivery Network. I can't give much information in here because I haven't used it. I used Cloudflare as my CDN provider, but if you want to use the one for Cloudways, I believe they charge, okay, it's right here, they charge $1 for every 25 gigabits per application. I think it's a lot cheaper than Cloudflare, but I just prefer working with Cloudflare. I've never had any issues with Cloudflare, so I'm going to stick with Cloudflare for now. Let me show you one more thing, and that's how to create a staging environment or even how to clone your website. So from here on this page, you will see down here this orange button with the dots. And then when you hover on it, you will see things like delete the application, add an application, or clone the app, create staging. You can just click on that one. And then right here, you choose your server. And then you can create as staging if you want to. So you can check the box right there and then click on continue. And that will create a staging environment. Or you can simply leave that unchecked. And then this will clone your application. So right now it's checking to see if the requirements match. And okay, so right now it's basically just cloning the application, and that's it. This will take a few minutes, and once that's done, you will see the cloned application under your list of applications. In closing, let me show you how I was able to solve the mailing issue that I had when I joined Cloudways initially. Remember in the intro video, I told you that when I joined Cloudways, I tried to move the mailing provider from SiteGround over to Cloudways as well, but it didn't quite work out. So how is it that I'm able to host my emails with SiteGround, but at the same time host the actual website and content on Cloudways? Well, I used this plugin called WP Mail SMTP by WP Forms. It is a truly outstanding, amazing plugin. So I installed it, and then right here you will find the link, WP Mail SMTP. Once you've activated the plugin, go to General. And then right here under mail, you'll do things like fill out the from email. You can check the box to force from email, add the from name, force the from name as well, check the box for return path. And now over here, where you have mailer, of course, this will depend on who is currently hosting your emails, whether it's Mailgun, Zoho, and so on. It all depends on which one you choose. I was hosting my emails with SiteGround, so I chose other SMTP. And then right here, I just simply filled out this information, which I got from SiteGround directly. So if you're hosting your mails with other hosts like maybe Bluehost or GoDaddy or HostGator, ask them for the following information: your SMTP host name, the level of encryption. Even though the plugin recommends TLS, this will depend on your actual mail provider. So confirm from them whether they're using SSL or TLS. Confirm the port number as well, and then authentication, and then finally simply provide the username and the password that you're currently using to access the emails on your mailing server. Save your settings and you should be good to go. You do have the email test feature right here, where you can provide an email, send an email to that email, and then see whether or not you got it. That will just confirm that you've been able to set up your mailing settings right here properly. So that's how I was able to solve my issue. Just go to your current mail provider and get all the necessary information from them to fill out all the necessary details, and you should be fine. Well, there you have it. We've come to the end of today's tutorial where I showed you how to navigate the backend of the Cloudways hosting platform. If you have any questions, you can put them down in the comment section below. But let me just say that if you run into any issues while working with Cloudways, it's always best that you just reach out to their support team. I'm pretty sure that they will help you solve whatever issues that you have. If you enjoyed the video, do give it a thumbs up, share the video with anyone whom you feel might benefit from it. And of course, don't forget, if you would like to buy Cloudways hosting, I will have my affiliate link in the box below where you can get 20% off for the first 3 months. Thank you so much for watching the video. Stay safe out there, and I'll talk to you next time. Cheers.